Silence lay steadily against the wood and stone of Hill House, and whatever walked there walked alone.
Around this time last year, we watched my favorite horror movie of all time, House on Haunted Hill, which released October 27th, 1999. The Haunting released a few months earlier on July 23rd, 1999. But still, two movies with very similar titles releasing only 3 months apart, there's bound to be some confusion. Especially when you find out The Haunting is based off the book The Haunting of Hill House. Even so, I saw both of these movies in theater that year, and they stuck with me for very different reasons, which we'll get into. But first, I think it's fitting to watch the movie, and I like to be thorough. So, let's start at the beginning with The Haunting from 1963.
They're here.
Robert Wise directed The Haunting. You know what other movies he's made? How about West Side Story and The Sound of Music? I'm not used to movies having a good, well-known director. I'm kind of excited to watch this. Especially because the movie was made while the writer of the book was still alive. In fact, Robert Wise sat down with Shirley Jackson to bounce some ideas off of her, and that's why the movie's called The Haunting. It was the only other title she had ever considered for her book. It starts out by giving us the grisly past of the house itself. Hugh Crane built it for his family. However, his wife, before she could even see it, was killed on the property in a carriage accident. Hugh remarried, but then she died too, this time falling down the steps. Or was she pushed? Hugh ended up dying in England in a drowning accident, leaving his only daughter, Abigail, in the house. She grew up, but never really left the nursery, making it her room as she got older. And once she was bedridden, she was forced to hire help from the local town, a companion to keep her company and take care of her. But then, one night, while Abigail banged her cane against the wall to call for help, the servant never came, and old Miss Abby passed away. The companion inherited the house, living only in solitude. She was eventually driven mad by the house itself, and she hung herself on the top of a spiral staircase. After her death, the house was then passed down to the closest living relative, Mrs. Sanderson, and that's where our story begins, with Dr. John Markway wanting to rent the house out for a sort of experiment he's doing. It takes a bit of persuading, but eventually she agrees, if her nephew Luke tags along. He's next to inherit the house, so they think that he'll at least try to respect it and make sure nothing gets broken.
Well, Hopper, give Dr. Markway his lease.
Thank you, Mrs. Sanderson.
Now we meet Elanor Lance, one of the doctor's chosen participants. She lives with her sister after taking care of her invalid, abusive mother for 11 years, taking care of her every demand. And old Elanor needs a vacation. However, her family won't let her go. So she just steals the car and leaves them in the dust. Hey, good for her, she deserves a break. But, as we'll soon see, perhaps her family did have Eleanor's best intentions at heart. Elle arrives at the gatehouse, which is locked shut, when Mr. Dudley, the caretaker, shows up,
What do you want?
telling her to just turn around and go home. But Elanor won't have any of that, and he finally lets her in, where we get our first good look at the house, which looks pretty cool. I'm going to talk more about the house in my 1999 remake review, but just know this is a cool place. It's gothic, creepy, and not at all the kind of house you would want to bring your kids to, because they would surely break something worth more than my car. Anyway, Elanor finds her room and is told the house rules by Mrs. Dudley. It all boils down to they leave at night. No one comes around the house after dark. So, when the sun goes down, they're on their own. This monologue is quite chilling, and Mrs. Dudley looks almost sad while giving it. Then, at the end, she gives this little smirk. Elanor meets with Theodora, another participant in the study. It's not really explicitly mentioned in this movie, but Theo is a lesbian, which, I know, in today's day and age, that's nothing new. It seems like every movie has to throw in a gay character. But back in 1963, this was bold. So bold that the censors demanded that Theo never touch Elanor to try to keep that all a secret. Anyway, Mrs. Dudley gives Theo the same speech, which Elanor kind of makes fun of.
No one can hear you if you scream in the night. Isn't that so, Mrs. Dudley?
No one lives any nearer than town. No one will come any nearer than that.
The two girls head off to explore the house, quickly getting lost, feeling a chill in the air.
Something with us.
Just then, Elle gets truly scared when the door opens and in comes Dr. Markway, claiming that he left it open and that someone, or something, must have shut it.
Welcome to Hill House. I'm Dr. Markway.
He shows them around, leading the girls to the center of operations, the purple parlor, which, in a black and white movie, doesn't really paint a picture. But, okay. Dr. Markway explains that the entire house was built using off angles, and there isn't a square corner in the whole place. That's why the doors open and shut on their own. Well, not all the time, I guess.
Yeah, well, what did I tell you?
They all wander around a bit until they finally meet the fourth character, Luke. Luke's only interested in how much money the house can make him, even if he tears out each floorboard to sell it. But overall, I think he's a good guy. Over dinner, they get to talking, and the doctor explains why they're all here. He's doing an experiment on the paranormal, trying to prove that ghosts are real. And what a better place to do that in than a haunted house? Theodora is here because she has ESP, and Elanor has also had a past brush with the unknown. When she was a child, it rained stones over her house.
Never happened.
Pretty weird. As for Hill House, the locals blame the hauntings on subterranean waters or sunspots, which really sounds like the old UFOs and swamp gas theory to me. But something else is happening around the dinner table that not even the doctor's aware of yet. Elanor is starting to find friends, a home, something she's never had before. That night, everyone's sawing logs when Elle's woken up by pounding on the wall.
Oh, just a minute, I'm coming!
At first, in her sleepy state, she wakes up thinking it's her mom wanting something, but soon snaps out of it when Theo hears the knocking too. Scared, the girls listen helplessly as the sound travels down the hall right outside their door. Then the knob slowly turns, a woman laughing outside of it.
It's found us.
Just then, as soon as it started, it's all gone. The boys, right outside their door, say they didn't hear anything, but that they were outside. Why were they outside? Well, they were chasing a dog. How did a dog get into the house? Sounds to me like something is trying to separate them. Easier to scare when they're alone. In the morning, Elanor starts out fresh, and her and the doctor get to talking, where he quickly learns that she hasn't had the best life. She even sleeps on her left side because she read that it wears out the heart faster. Aw, crap, I sleep on my left side. Dr. Markway explains his obsession into the paranormal, how it started out when he was a young boy. His family was very straight-laced, and he started to study the spirit realm as a way to rebel. He feels that if he can prove the existence of a human spirit, then perhaps the spirit can outlive a man, making them immortal? I don't know, it's something like that. Just then, Luke comes in for breakfast, and he asks who wrote that on the wall. Not knowing anything, they go out to take a look, and written in chalk, it says, "Help Elanor, come home."
Come home.
What?
Which, understandably so, disturbs Elanor.
Please, it's crazy.
Crazy is the word for it, all right.
Get something and wipe it off, Luke.
To take her mind off of things, Dr. Markway takes them to a sort of greenhouse with a statue as the centerpiece. It's supposed to be St. Francis curing a leper, but they make the obvious connection to Hugh Crane and his wives. Elanor even dances with him for a little bit until the door slams open, showing them the library, which Elle just can't go into, the smell reminding her too much of her mother. Inside is where the companion hung herself at the top of that very rickety spiral staircase. Later that night, Dr. Markway worries that this might all just be too much for Elanor, and it might be time to pull the plug on the experiment. But after she protests, he proposes that her and Theo share a room tonight. Safety in numbers. And of course, Theodore's all about that.
Let's go inside.
In the middle of the night, Elle wakes up hearing a voice on the other side of the wall, which is admittingly pretty creepy. She tells Theo not to scream. Don't let it know she's in there with her. Instead, they hold hands. Scared, we hear what sounds like Hugh Crane hurting a child, which is something Elle just can't stand for. So she yells out, only to wake up and see that it wasn't Theo holding her hand, but a ghost. That would be enough to make anyone pack up and leave, but not good old Elanor, mainly because she doesn't have anywhere to go. Her home is on her sister's couch, and after stealing the car, I doubt she'll be very welcome. Her and Dr. Markway get to talking, really forming a bond, a relationship. Elle still feels guilty about her mother's passing, feeling that way because she was her caretaker. She feels it's her fault. Just then, a taxi shows up, and who's in it? Well, Grace Markway, the doctor's wife. Just as Elanor was starting to fall for him, she finds out he has a wife, crushing her dreams.
Didn't John tell you he's married?
Grace wants her husband to leave, but when that doesn't work, she joins him. Worse yet, she doesn't believe in ghosts. So, to prove this is all just a sham, she wants to sleep in the nursery, the heart of the house, and the room Hugh Crane's daughter Abigail died in. Everyone knows that this is a bad idea, but it doesn't matter, because they don't have a key to that room. That's okay. The house opens the door for him, beckoning her in. That night, sure enough, they hear the pounding again. Worried for his wife, the doctor wants out of the room, but Luke knows it's not safe out there. There's a cool effect here where the door is breathing. I wonder how they did that. While the attention's on the door, Elanor slips out the back. Whatever's out there, she knows it wants her. She wanders around for a while until she finds herself in front of the nursery. And inside is nothing. Not even Grace. It's completely empty. The others come running in while Elanor continues to lose her sanity. Next, going back to the garden and dancing with the statues. Then she winds up in the library. Before, she couldn't even stand the smell of it. But now, that smell is gone, and she seems content, happy. She climbs up the old spiral staircase, which makes me sick. Ugh. The others run into the room, Dr. Markway climbing up after her, the whole thing shaking as they walk. After a tense 5 minutes, they both make it to the top, where the companion hung herself. Just as you think Nell's gonna fall, the doctor saves her and convinces her to come back down. But as she turns around, she takes one last look at the attic and sees Grace. The others don't believe her and think that Nell is just going crazy. You think? This is the straw that breaks the camel's back, and it's time to send Nell home, much to her chagrin.
It isn't fair.
She admits to them that she has nothing back home, and that this stay at Hill House was the most excitement that she's ever had in her dull, boring life. But they're just like, too bad, so sad. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
House means me to stay.
Elanor books it out of there, and as she drives, the steering wheel seems to control itself, veering off the road, and it's either slam into a tree or hit a wandering grace. Elanor hits the tree and dies on impact, the exact same location where Hugh Crane's first wife died in that carriage accident. It all begs the question, was Elanor really crazy, or was it the ghosts of Hill House?
The house belongs to her now, too. Maybe she's happier.
The Haunting is classic horror done right. This is one of the rare instances where I actually did read the book The Haunting of Hill House, and I would have to say the movie follows the book quite well. It really makes you wonder if Elanor was crazy or if the place is really haunted. But get this, Nelson Gidding, who wrote the script, wanted Elanor to have a nervous breakdown. She'd be hospitalized, Hill House would actually be the hospital, the other characters were the staff, and the knocking and booms were her electroshock therapy. So basically, none of it was real, but all in her head. Shirley Jackson didn't really like that idea, so they changed it. But, and hang with me here, what if this was the story and she was in an insane asylum? She's locked up getting her therapy from Dr. Vandekit from the 1999 House on Haunted Hill. The whole thing would come full circle, connecting two movies that have nothing to do with each other except the names are similar. The Haunting is a good movie, there is just no way around it. The music is chilling and sometimes non-existent when silence is creepier. All the actors do a great job, there isn't a single weak link in the bunch. Julie Harris, who plays Elanor, carried the film, and I like that they have her dressed dull and boring while Theo is exciting and playful. The house is beautiful and sets the stage perfectly. I do kind of wish it was in color, and now usually I like that black and white feeling, but here I wanted to see what the mansion actually looked like. Don't get me wrong, the film is beautiful. Every frame is a feast for the eyes. There's so much contrast that no single image looks too much black or white, but a beautiful mixture of the two. It really makes me wonder what it would all look like in color. Thankfully, we have the remake to look forward to, which is in color. So tune in next time and we'll watch the 1999 version of The Haunting. As for the 1963 film, it's a fantastic watch and worth your time, even at a longer runtime. The only thing this movie lacks is a chimney flue shaped like a lion's head. I wonder if we'll see that next time. I give it 3.5 spiral staircases out of 4.
Hill House has stood for 90 years and might stand for 90 more. Within, walls continue upright, bricks meet, floors are firm, and doors are sensibly shut. Silence lies steadily against the wood and stone of Hill House, and we who walk here walk alone.